ESPN and the NFL made a $1 billion agreement, reportedly, that will do two things. The first is that ESPN will own and operate NFL Network, and RedZone and NFL Fantasy will merge with the ESPN Fantasy Football product. And then the other is that the NFL will receive a 10% ownership stake in ESPN. Adam Schefter put out the tweet yesterday. Adam Schefter works for ESPN. So I'm going to take this as the official word between the two. Basically, what this means is instead of running their own network, the NFL now becomes part owner of ESPN. TLDR, I do not love this. I do not love anything about this, and I truly don't understand how more of a red flag is not being raised, both from an antitrust standpoint and also from the NFL having some kind of stake in sports betting now, officially, because ESPN has its own sports book, and if the NFL has ownership in ESPN, then they tangentially have ownership in the ESPN sportsbook, and that doesn't seem particularly integrity forward if you are the NFL. From the content standpoint, like anytime there is less competition, there is less choice, and this move reduces the amount of different options you can go to for NFL coverage. Fans are now forced into ESPN. I know they have their direct-to-consumer, the ESPN app that is coming out this fall, where it's going to be $30 a month. And now it's like if they raise their prices or have crazy bundles, well, that's too bad. Do you want to watch RedZone? You have to subscribe to ESPN. You have to pay ESPN. Do you want to watch these NFL games? Well, you have to have ESPN. I hate this. Like, it just feels like this giant mega monopoly of sorts. And I don't want to make too much of it, but I am genuinely concerned what this means for the future of NFL coverage and the kind of Pandora's box that this opens in general.
Well, this is a thing. Like, this is a big thing. And we're seeing it across a couple of different industries where it is, hey, we can't, like you said, if you want to compete, and competition is what capitalism is supposed to be about. Mm-hmm. And if you want that competition to continue to exist, you can't have these types of mergers happening, because it crushes competition. And competition, from what I've been told and what I was taught, with capitalism, competition makes everything better. Mm-hmm. Competition drives prices down. Competition creates a race to make your product as good as possible. If there's nobody else around to compete with you, and ESPN and NFL merging, come on, man. Like, who's competing with that? Right. If nobody's around to compete with you, then what does it do? Where's your incentive to be better? Where's your incentive to think about the consumer in a real meaningful sort of way? Because like you said, they can just jack up the price like, hey, tough, pay it. You want to watch, pay it.
Yeah.
Also, from a media coverage standpoint, this feels disgusting. How can I trust the worldwide leader in sports, they still are, mm-hmm. to adequately cover the NFL, not just the games and the scores, but other things that are going on? And we know, if nothing else, other things are going on in the NFL.
Yes. And
there needs to be an eye on the things going on in the NFL outside of the football field, just like there needs to be eyes on the football field, and we got that taken care of. How can I trust them to adequately cover situations that pop up with players, situations that pop up in negotiations with owners? How can I trust them to cover something like he just passed? I won't use that. Like what? It's the only thing I got. Like a Jim Irsay, right? That popped off. Deshaun Watson, right? How can I trust them to cover that adequately when they are in bid fully now mm-hmm. with the NFL? That just doesn't. I don't know if I can trust ESPN to do that. I can't trust anybody to do that.
Right. I jumped to scandals too, but even trusting them to cover injuries accurately or business happenings accurately. I don't know. The NFL is already the single-handed largest, most powerful league in American sports, and now having media ownership in the largest, most powerful brand in sports, because ESPN is still that. I know there are a million ESPN haters, but at the end of the day, it is the worldwide leader. And if you went down the street and asked 10 people, hey, what's the biggest name in sports media coverage, you're probably getting 10 people saying ESPN. So the fact that the NFL now essentially owns a portion of that, I just really don't see how that doesn't lead to some sort of control over the product and coverage moving forward. And that just feels really icky. And ESPN this morning, I saw announced too that they're going to be the home of WWE premium live events. And that'll include WrestleMania starting in 2026. And, that's fine. ESPN made their surge into being the worldwide leader by trying to get the rights to as many sports as possible. I've been listening. I haven't completed it, but John Skipper, the former head of ESPN, was on Pablo Torre Finds Out and kind of did a back and forth argument with David Sampson on the WNBA negotiations and what the salary expectation should be in this new CBA. But John Skipper was saying, back in the day when they were the only ones to bid on WNBA, a part of that was because they were trying to gobble up as many sports as possible. And so that's one thing, but it's another to have the ownership component and the linking with the NFL. It stinks. And the fact that there so far hasn't been any perceived pushback, I don't know if that will occur. I don't know if there will be some sort of handshakes behind closed doors, or God, if the Washington football team has to be renamed in order for this to go through. And that's just being circumstantial and throwing out something that could potentially get added to the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're not going to raise any red flags with this, and we're just going to let this become a thing. I was happy to find out Scott Hansen is still hosting RedZone. So, selfishly, us RedZone fanatics, us believers in 7 hours of commercial-free football, will still have Scott Hansen. I hope it's still 7 hours of commercial-free football. Last season, they started putting ads up in the corner, which felt dirty and against the sanctity of RedZone. And I can only imagine what this new venture will include. I do think they're still operating RedZone and NFL related content from the NFL side. So maybe there won't be a change. I've seen a lot of people say, please God, don't put Stephen A. Smith on my RedZone. I don't know if that'll happen. ESPN and ABC and Disney are the kings of cross promotion.
They will.
At all times.
He'll be over there at some point.
If I have to watch RedZone with Stephen A., Pat McAfee taking over for Scott Hansen at any point in time, I'll be devastated. But guess what? I'll keep watching because we're all stuck. That's the whole point. I have nowhere else to turn for RedZone. And maybe a small victory will be if ESPN gets ownership of the RedZone property. Maybe we'll finally get a college football RedZone. I've wanted a college football RedZone forever. Or an NBA type RedZone. They did that for a minute where they had a bop around on NBA TV. But yeah, don't love this.
Listen. Add that to the long list of things
I don't love.
Not to love. I've never watched a single second of RedZone.
That's okay.
I prefer, and listen,
there are people who really don't like RedZone.
However you consume the thing is how you consume it. You got it. But what we got to be able to talk about and understand is when monopolies are being formed, we've got to be willing to step in here and be like, no, this is not going to be good for the consumer overall. And I don't know how to convince people that it is it's in your best interest to have NFL games and have as many different places possible to get quality stuff. I don't know how to convince you that that's good, right? So for the NFL, we're talking about the NFL, being able to have something on ESPN, have something on NBC, have something on Fox, have something on CBS, that makes it better. They are competing for your dollar. They know you've got a limited amount of money, so they're not going to jack the prices all the way up. They're going to try and find the sweet spot where they make money, and you're not going to end up in the poorhouse. Well, if this type of stuff is allowed, and they're doing this in the NFL, what's to stop somebody else from coming in and say, hey, you know what? Let's do this for the NBA also. And then they say, hey, you know what? We're just going to be the NBA station. And then ESPN says, okay, well, fine. We're just going to be the football station. Now you don't have competition in those two sports. And now the prices continuously go up. And again, there's nothing you can do about it because they have it and nobody else has it and you can't get it. So this is a bad thing. Somebody should absolutely step in and take a look at this. But you and I both know, as long as you are greasing the right palm, and by greasing it, I mean flattering the president, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about any of this type of stuff.
I saw a couple comments in the chat about the influencer who was hired by ESPN this week, or more appropriately, a content creator. I believe her name is Katie Feeney. She has over 14 million followers across all platforms. I do think, because a lot of people have made ESPN's dying for this, and now we're bringing in influencers and content, and there's a big like degradation of like what this woman does. She's a recent graduate of Penn State. I think she's 22 years old. I did not know of her before this hiring happened this week from ESPN, but I've kind of looked into her stuff now. And I think this is really smart of ESPN. Her getting hired is not one of those things that is connected to Around the Horn going away, or like the devaluing of actual reporters on ESPN. You can have both. Those things went away because they gave an insane sum of money to two people on that network. This young woman represents a growing industry, and I know there are a lot of like shake fists at cloud people who continue to look at social media and influencers and content creators as less than, or as this notion of like, the intern does social. That's so old and so tired. I cannot believe that's still a trope. It is so valuable that a billion-dollar company like ESPN saw this woman and said, we want her to be making content for us. And she's done, like, she has accolades. She's worked for various NFL teams. She's worked for the Rose Bowl. She's done sports coverage in other places. And to go back to even just the idea of like competition is good, variation in the voices that you're hearing from is a good thing. So like, you don't have to bring down this person who just got a really cool job. And listen, I grapple with it all the time. I never know what to tell young people these days when they're like, how do I do what you do? And I'm like, frankly, I don't know. Pick up your phone and start making content, and maybe you'll end up being like this person. But that's a very dime a dozen at this point. But I think ESPN and other companies have been slow on the acceptance of the importance of content creators in a larger marketing space. Like, you can not like it, but the best asset you have is social media and content creation. Like, that drives eyeballs, that drives dollars, that drives influence, that drives talking points. And to think that that's not a big thing in today's day and age of the media landscape is just ignoring like a very big reality that's not going anywhere.
We had a conversation about the Fantastic Four and movies on Monday, and we were talking about, it was Naked Gun.
Yeah.
That we had the conversation about, and how these shared experiences used to be on your TV screens and on the movie screens. Yeah. Now it's on your telephone. Yeah. So the way we are consuming things now, sports included, is through clips on phones, and you need somebody who is good at that to be able to usher in new people to your company, to your product. So I see it as a shrewd business move, a smart business move by ESPN. And I think we'll look back at it in a handful of years, like, everybody's watching these things now on TikTok or on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, wherever you are. That's how everybody's watching these things now. And you need a host, somebody who can organize all of the content from around the league in a really creative and fun sort of a way, an easily digestible sort of way. And I have no clue who she is. I'm assuming that they think she can do that. But we are gone. The TV numbers continuously dip year by year. Sure.
The most important thing is clips.
Sure. Sports is king. Sports is always going to be, because it's live. Live sports is always something you need to sit down and consume live. But how are you sitting down and consuming it live? I don't want to speak for anybody else. I feel confident that us three, you, me, and other Jacob downstairs, the game is up, but we're also on some sort of tablet, phone, laptop as we scroll through social media to partake in the overall large sports conversation that is happening at the same time. So having somebody in that realm is very, very important to have if you're a company looking to grow.
I have to go out of my way to watch a game without having a secondary screen in front of me.
Yeah.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.